Hi there, this is Truth Seeker here. For those who didn't want to wade through an hour and 37 minutes of statistical analysis to take a look at uh, the Watchtower scandal analysis that I did, I cut it short and made it as a separate video here, so that you can watch it. It's not terribly long, but basically what I did with that analysis was to go through some statistical information that I've gotten off the internet regarding pedophiles and the frequency or let's say the incidence of the mental disease and or mental disorder in the in society in general, and then applied it to Watchtower. Now, Watchtower has a list of an infamous list of 23,000 plus, almost 24,000 alleged pedophiles that they refuse to turn over to the court system in California. They're being fined $4,000 a day per day of violation. It's been some 2 years now, and Watchtower has accrued about $2 million or a little more than $2 million worth of fines. They've appealed to the California court system on that ruling for contempt of court for not providing the list, even because even though it was subpoenaed, they didn't turn the list over, and therefore defying the court, they were penalized, and they don't believe that they should be, that they're above the law. But actually, I think Watchtower really wants all of this business to just go away. They're sitting on a real ticking hydrogen bomb on this one. And if you take a look at the potential numbers, I don't think that my analysis is necessarily that far-fetched. Some of the judgments in the rulings in the Jose Lopez case and Candace Conti case, where she initially won $28 million, and then in subsequent appeals, Jehovah's Witnesses reduced the amount substantially, from 28 million to 15 million, and then from 15 million to 2.8 million dollars, which is still substantial, but not worth the heartache and the trouble that she had to suffer because of Watchtower's indiscretions and their policies, their two-witness rule, which subjects children to dangerous people who could damage a child's psyche for life. Anyway, I just did some what if number crunching, given the number of alleged cases, given the amount of, for example, sources on the internet regarding pedophiles indicate that they can range between 1% and 5% of society. So I just took a look at a range of possibilities, and in each and every one of these possibilities, it really looks like I said earlier that Watchtower is sitting on a time bomb, and a potentially huge time bomb in the extreme. So if, for example, well, I go through these and I explain the different scenarios. So I don't really need to explain it here in this preface. But anyway, I hope you find it interesting. I certainly found it somewhat enlightening to do this, to go through this what if scenario. I do believe that the unlike the Catholic Church, which has a billion adherents, is 2,000 years old, has so much more in the way of land holdings and properties that can be liquidated and turned into compensation for abuse victims. I think the Catholic Church is in a better position to be able to withstand such an onslaught. I don't think the Watchtower is in quite that same kind of a position financially, and I think that it's got the governing body running scared. They have been cutting back not only substantially in the printed works, and there is some other advantages to not printing things, because printed material always has a way of coming back and biting you. But it also I think the work in making videos and other things initiatives that they have been pursuing over the recent decade or so appear or have the appearance that they're being cut back or held in reserve to some extent, and I think that's entirely attributable to the sex abuse scandal. It looms large on Watchtower's, their leadership's radar, and I think that they're truly scared of what the implications are with the potential payouts that they may have to make, and that but it's still befuddling that they don't give up these ridiculous policies that have put them in this position. And you would think that they'd learn, but they don't. They just don't learn. They're so darn stubborn, and they insist on keeping this. It's like a challenge. We're going to keep this 2-witness rule. Oh, but there's no reason in the world for them to keep it. It can certainly be explained away. No other religion, no other Christian religion has that interpretation for that set of scriptures. So certainly Watchtower can find a way to reinterpret what they mean by the 2-witness rule. But this is a legacy that has a long history. It dates back to Charles Taze Russell and the Bible students. I grew up with a version of the two witness rule. It wasn't as official. It wasn't codified in any way, like it's codified in the official Jehovah's Witness rule book, which they call the Shepherding the Flock of God. But anyway, they won't. They're just. Watchtower reminds me of the Israel of old, where the law and the books of the law were more important than the essence of the law. And that's where the Jehovah's Witnesses are just a modern version of that thing, of that same sort of thinking that Jesus was one of the reasons why he was so unpopular with the Pharisees and the religious leaders of Israel in his day, is because he was saying that you don't live by the essence or the spirit of the law, you live by the letter of the law. And that's exactly what the Jehovah's Witnesses do. They've lost the spirit of love. And I'm not advocating Christianity. I'm not advocating the Bible. I'm not advocating religion. I think that the Bible, when you look at it, is a hideous book that condones hideous acts, and behaviors, but we have it. We have to deal with it. There are billions of Christians, professed Christians, over 2 billion professed Christians in this world. So, it's not anything that's going to go anywhere quickly. So we have to deal with it. And but anyway, I hope you find this interesting. I didn't, rather than wait through an hour and 37 minutes of statistical analysis, I wanted to put this here for those who didn't want to wait so long. So anyway, here it goes. But the other thing is that the one of the big scandals for Watchtower today is the child sex abuse scandal, and that is a very sad situation. That Watchtower would rather adopt a policy and keep a policy that would protect pedophiles and not protect children. Their priority is not to protect children at all, and to show the significance of it. Again, here's some information. I'm just going to move this over a little bit so that you can see it. Now, hopefully you can see this fairly well. I have made it a larger font. Now, this is the number, the latest number of Jehovah's Witnesses in the United States in 2016. Now, in the Jose Lopez trial, there was a list that was the court was made aware of a list that the Watchtower keeps of the number of pedophiles that it has within its organization, and it kept names, locations, and who knows what other information. Maybe which children, maybe how many children each pedophile may have hurt. But this list, I looked up online yesterday, is allegedly contains 23,720 names. Now, when you go to the statistics, in society in general, they say the best information that I could find is that once, some sites said 3% of the population are pedophiles. Another site said between 1 and 5% are pedophiles. And if you take that level, anywhere between 1 and 5%, and apply that against the 1,198,000 witnesses in the United States, you get, oh darn it, I made this too, sometimes I'm getting used to this, computer. Okay, what that indicates, at 1%, there would be 11,000, almost 12,000 pedophiles in the Watchtower Society in the United States. At 2%, 23,961. That is almost exactly the number that is on the list that the Watchtower, this is the Watchtower list. This is the Watchtower list of pedophiles that it's protecting, this list. And they're paying a $4,000 a day. $4,000 a day. Whoops, I screwed up. $4,000 per day fine for not turning in that list. That is, that was the fine because they were subpoenaed. Watchtower was subpoenaed to provide that list to the court, and they did not provide the list, and so they were charged with contempt of court and fined $4,000 per day of violation. Now it's been roughly 2 years. The number of that the fine is up to it's greater than $2 million currently. So they've accrued at this rate a fine of over $2 million. Now this fine is substantial. It's a big fine. But I understand that they rather than turn over the list and pay the fine, they also defaulted a $13 million judgment in the Jose Lopez case because there were for two things. Because Garrett Loesch would not appear in court, and because they would not turn over the list. And so the court was penalizing Watchtower for this. And so they penalized them in this judgment, the $13 million. And as far as I understand, that has not changed So that is still the same. I don't know if Watchtower appealed that, but I do know that the Watchtower did appeal this $2 million that is accruing, and it's currently accruing. If you go to JW Survey website, they have a counter, or at least they had a counter. I don't know if they still have it, but they probably do. That shows how much of that fine has accrued since the initiation of that fine. Now, getting back to the numbers here, I doubt the 1%. Because they already have a list of 720 or 23,720. So this, I think we can, disregard as understating the matter in Watchtowers. So at best, Watchtower has tallied up all of the pedophiles in the Watchtower, in the Jehovah's Witnesses, that they've got a tally of every pedophile. I doubt that's true, because I just don't think that they have that. Who's going to volunteer that information? Especially a pedophile that has not been caught yet. So this number here, 23,720, represents 2% of the number of publishers in the United States. 2%. Okay, 2% of the Jehovah's Witnesses are on that list of pedophiles. That is a substantial number, and that, you see here, 99%, that's roughly 100%. Now, if it was 3%, which is what a number of websites suggested, that 3% of the population are pedophiles, then this 23,720 underreports. It only captures 66. Their list here only captures 66% of the actual number of pedophiles. And that seems to be more likely, because who are they going to have on the list but the ones that have acknowledged that they've done something, ones that they know about, that have confessed, or have been caught, or have been alleged to have committed child sexual abuse. At 4%, they've only captured 49%, and now 5% was the top that I found, that in society, that it ranges between 1 and 5% of society are pedophiles. So that means that this list, highlighted in yellow, captures only 39, or roughly 40%. Only 40% of the actual number of pedophiles in the Watchtower. Now, if that is the case, now let's look at it from this perspective, the 3% case. Let's say they get judgment. Okay, the Watchtowers, they don't want to turn over this list. It really is damning to them, so they're going to want to settle. And let's say they settle, and many, because witnesses are are likely not to have much of an education, and their earnings are not going to be all that great as a result of that. I believe Watchtower can entice individuals with a lower settlement than what people could get. And so even though there have been some cases that have been lost, currently there's a $66 million class action lawsuit against Watchtower in Canada. If Watchtower in the United States settles, let's say, 36,000 cases, which is 3%, 36,000 cases, all right, at 100,000 a case. Okay, so let's, I like to make sure that I have my format cells. I like to have the separator there. Okay, now let's say this is $100,000 US dollars, USD. Okay, that would mean if they had to settle this many cases at $100,000 a case, and that's lowballing it, they got $3,600,000,000 that they have to pay out in judgment for 36,000 cases at $100,000. Now, they've been losing these cases with judgments in the area of millions. So let's say Watchtower gets lucky and they only settle half the cases that they have on their list. Okay, so it's equal to that by 2. Okay, let's say per adventure, and that on average they lose $2 million. Okay, that would be, and let's get these formatted the way I like them. Cells number 00. Okay, that would equal this. Sorry, that would equal this by this. That would be an astounding $23,720,000,000. $24 billion. That would be half the cases on this list of 23,000 at $2 million a case. Now, this scenario is settling the more likely 3% of cases at $100,000 a case. Even so, we're talking $3 billion. And if we half that, let's say the number was 18,000 that they settled, that's still at that is half of this. Whoops, I did a stupid thing. I'm getting tired. Okay, equals this by 2. That's still almost $2 billion alone. that they would settle. If they settled 18,000, that would be for 18,000 cases. And 18,000 is substantially lower than the 23,000 in their list. This thing has the potential to completely and totally bankrupt Watchtower. In the absolute, let's look at the absolute worst scenario, okay? Let's say, now again, this is just the potential. This is why I think Watchtower is becoming less and less transparent in all respects, because they don't want anybody knowing how much money they've got and what potential they have and what they know in any regard. But let's say it is 23,720. Okay, that they have to settle with, okay? And they settle at $2 million a case, which is not unreasonable. Then the amount would be a staggering, not even enough room in that cell to fit the number, $47 billion. Almost $48 billion. 47. And if they had to do the 36,000, which is 3%, that's 72 million. Now, if these 36,000 committed, let's say, 3 offenses each, you can take this number and multiply that by 3, and you've got yourself a huge, huge number. That's 200, well, let's format that. That's $216 billion, or $0.2 trillion. Let's get the number. That's $216 billion, or $0.2 trillion. If there were multiple cases, let's say 3, each of the 36,000 committed 3 cases or circumstances, and each cost them $2 million to settle on in court. This thing has the potential of running up to hundreds of billions of dollars. And no matter how much money and how tax-free Watchtower has been over the years, there's no way that Watchtower could afford something like that. They're sitting on a powder keg. They're ready to blow. And so this is, just a little what-if analysis to kind of frame it in our minds of what Watchtower is looking at. I mean, if I were sitting in that boardroom and I was discussing this situation with my legal team and with consultants and with other individuals that I would hire to help me out in dealing with this situation, then this is the kind of stuff that we're looking at. They want to look at the worst case. They want to look at the most probable case, and they want to look at the least situation, the least harmful. And in looking at this, the least harmful is still roughly it's in the neighborhood of about $1.8 billion. That is a mind-boggling amount of money. And the worst case scenario is just out there so far. You might as well just close Watchtower's doors because they don't have that kind of money, no matter how much tax exemption and other things. So I think this is the reason why we've seen the printing go down. I think that this is why we've seen the amount of service work all around go down. Even on JW Broadcasting, it is going down. This list of 23,720 individuals, the Australian Commission, the lawsuits, the English Charity Commission, all of this is a financial nightmare for Watchtower, and they don't want to give it away, but they're closing in. They're tightening ranks. They're circling the wagons. They're really in a total defense situation, and they're trying to save as much money as possible from leaving the organization, because they are indeed looking at they're sitting on a hydrogen bomb that has a timer that's going off, and they don't know what to do to prevent that from happening. Don't know how big the blast is going to be, but that blast is going to be devastating no matter what. Now, maybe Watchtower will survive it, but there's a possibility that Watchtower might not survive this circumstance, this situation, and they'll have to close their doors, which would be an interesting thing, because if they then declare bankruptcy, then all of the financials would have to be disclosed, because they would be either taken into a receivership to guide them out, or they would just have to close up altogether, and just all of their assets then become distributed to the they liquidate the assets and then distribute the assets to those victims that Watchtower is right now covering up and protecting. And this 23,000, mind you, is just in the U.S. alone. If we take 8 million, what is our number here? 8,249,000. Okay, 8,249,000. 8,249. 1, 2, 3. I did something wrong there, didn't I? 8,249,000, and I'm going to format this so that I can, darn it, sorry. I'm a stickler about separators, commas. Okay, that's 8 million. Okay. Now, 3% of 8 million. Okay, I'm going to fix this so that we can see the, there we go, 3%. Okay, that means globally, in the middle. Now again, it could be between 1 and 5%. I'm taking the middle. 3% is equal to this times this. That's 247,000 pedophiles around the world, globally. 247, or you could round it up to 250. That's 250,000 pedophiles in the Watchtower Society. Okay, this list here is only in the United States, and the United States is only about 1/8 of the total number. So let's see if that makes some sense. Okay, 189. So yeah, all right. Yeah, this is about right. 240,000. If it was 2%, it's 165,000. 165,000 pedophiles if it's 2%. But the information, like I said, is 3% was the most probable number. And if they have to settle with that much, let's say $100,000, okay, that would mean that they would have to pay $25 billion globally. 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 This is a conservative number. Conservative. If this thing was 200, if this thing was 2 million, we're talking about $500 billion. $500 billion. Okay. So now, I don't know what the Catholic Church had to pay. I never really paid as close attention to it as I have been with this circumstance with the Watchtower. But I don't know. You know, there are 1 billion Catholics. The Catholic Church has been around for 2,000 years. They own, you know, in terms of property, they make the Watchtower look like pipsqueaks. The Catholic Church has so much locked up in assets and so much money that they could survive something of this magnitude. I mean, it would hurt them, and it would hurt them. And the Catholic Church has been hurt tremendously. Who knows if they'll ever really fully recover from the child abuse scandal that they suffered and still are suffering. But Watchtower cannot afford anything like this. And look, these numbers are not unreal. They're not unreal. We've seen some settlements. There was one settlement for $23 million. That thing got knocked down substantially on an appeal to, I believe it was $2 or $3 million. And then there was Louis Lopez that had $13 million, and I don't think that one was knocked down. They can't afford to be losing these numbers of cases. And again, if they settle for $100,000 and there are 247,000 people around the world they have to settle with, that is $25 billion. There is no way that Watchtower can survive that. They are, no matter how big they are, no matter how much money they have accrued over the years, tax-free, that is a staggering amount of money that they are potentially ready to pay. This is a hydrogen bomb that's ticking that they are sitting on. So anyway, I just think, you see, numbers can frame. Numbers can give you insight into things. And it's kind of fun to do these mental exercises to see what the potential is. Again, these are just potentials. And this is what the governing body is sitting around the table talking about. We're not talking about much of anything else right now except how do we survive this scandal. And, you know, whoever is giving them advice is really screwing them over, because they're not backing down. They're not giving this list over, this damning list. They're not giving up their 2 witness rule, which is utterly ridiculous. They really should call it the 2 witness rule. I mean, the 2 witness rule is ludicrous, and I think that Watchtower and whoever is giving them advice is really taking the wrong course of action, and it's going to come back and it's going to bite them pretty hard. And it should. It should, because number one, they have the responsibility for taking care of the people who call themselves Jehovah's Witnesses, their followers. That is their number one priority, especially the children. Especially the children. So, anyway, I've gone on a bit, and I apologize if you guys don't care for numbers. I think that they can be revealing. I have fun with it. This was a bit longer than I wanted to make, but I thought it revealed some interesting potentials, some interesting insight into the organization, insight that is now going to be terminated. Because 2017 is the last year we'll likely see any statistics from the Watchtower. I'd love to see the statistics continue so that we could see how well the organization really is faring in the future, but I doubt they're going to. If they do publish any information, it's going to be very limited and very controlled, even more so than what they've done in the past. There's nothing to brag about anymore, and so I think they're going to. They're not a transparent organization at all, and they're becoming less so all the time. So this is the truth seeker, atheist, wishing you all well.